This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports. You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good evening, everybody. Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk's College Football Huddle right here on Northeast Streaming Sports. Hope you guys are all doing well tonight. We're going to get into a couple of topics tonight. We'll have Jim Biringer join us here in a little bit, who you know from the Last Word on Hockey on the Mad Radio Network and Full Press Hockey, but he's also one of our go-to people for college football talk. And we'll talk about the Saban Jimbo issue. We'll talk about some conferences doing away with divisions and reschedule, changing schedules and what to kind of look forward to there, and some other things around college football. And I hope you guys listen as we get started here tonight. Ow, excuse me. Jeez. Oh. Sorry. I mean, the issue I have is so trivial. I do want to bring up something tonight. So I hope you guys can carry us along tonight, because the world of sports sometimes seems so trivial. It is an escape. It's an escape for me. It's an escape for all of us. And with everything going on in the world today, my family's safe. I certainly have to thank God for that. But everything going on and out in Buffalo and now Texas yesterday with this awful, awful shooting. And I want to send our prayers, and I think we all should send our prayers out to the families in Texas and anywhere that are affected by some of the craziness that goes on in the world. And also there's a good friend of mine who's struggling a bit as well. Certainly not on the level that these families are, and some of you may know who it is. I'm not going to say who it is here, but I want to wish him and his family well as well. But, listen, it's time for us to start treating each other nicer. I'm not going to go into this real deep, but I felt necessary to start the show with this tonight. And we'll dive into the world of college football like we always do on Wednesdays, and we'll continue to use it and try to escape from this nonsense, this craziness that has taken over this country and this world. But I just don't understand, and I hope we can find a way back to a kinder, gentler world. So I hope you guys will help me along tonight and bring some topics to the table to help us out. Jim Biringer, as I said, will join us here in a little bit. But send your prayers to these families, guys, and keep a good thought for them. And try not to be too much of a Debbie Downer tonight, but it's one of those nights where it's really tough to do the show, but I feel it's cathartic for myself and other people. And listen, I know we've got viewers everywhere, and if we've got viewers in one of our great, one of our best viewers, Alan from Oklahoma, is not too far away from Texas, obviously. And, I'm sure we have viewers in Texas, and I hope you don't know anybody affected by this tremendous tragedy. And if you were, or you know somebody, then my heart goes out to you. So thank you, Rick. It's tough in these times to kind of go on. I can't imagine. It's hard to imagine what those families are going through, right? It's a senseless thing. And those of us not affected have a hard time getting our heads around it. And it's unimaginable what these families must be going through. So, but we will try to forge on and kind of be an escape from the real world, as it were, because we deal with very little real world topics here because it's all a mess. Anyway, Jim Biringer should be joining us here in a little bit, as I said. We're going to jump into some stuff tonight. We want to get into the Jimbo. I didn't want to go into the NIL every night, or every show, and we stayed away from pretty good last week. But we can't avoid this Saban Jimbo standoff. So we'll dive into that, and it's impossible not to talk about that without talking about the NIL. So we'll get into that. There's some of the Pac-12 and soon I think the ACC and some other conferences are considering doing. The Pac-12 definitely is doing away with divisions now that the NCAA has said you don't have to have multiple divisions to have a conference championship game, which the Big 12 hasn't for a while, by the way. I'm sorry, I bit my inside of my mouth. And if you've ever done that, and how trivial is this after what I just chatted about? But now I keep biting it. And so if you see me wince a few times tonight, I'll have bit down on my gum. Or the inside of my mouth, as it were. Good evening, Dave Guyette. Good to have you with us tonight. Whoa. Hold on. Something's going crazy with my computer here. All right, we're good. Anyway, good evening, Dave Guyette. Good to have you with us on the College Football Huddle tonight. And, Jim Biringer in a little bit. Listen, I want to talk about a couple of things that Northeast Streaming Sports and TGI Sports Talk's heavily involved in. Certainly the first thing will be we'll play the video here in just a few minutes. The Dream Ride experience, which I've talked about extensively on my shows and will up until the date of August 26th when this happens. It's a great cause, raising money for the Homefront Foundation here in Farmington, Connecticut, and they work with a lot of underprivileged kids or challenged kids and young adults and then adults. And there's all kinds of great functions going on there, and I think we'll play this video really quick. Alan's with us tonight. Good evening, Alan. I know you want to talk about this conference thing, so I didn't think you were going to be able to join us, but I'm glad you did. So we'll be there in a second. Let's take a quick look at the Dream Ride experience, and then we'll talk about a couple other things. And Jim Biringer will be in shortly to join us, and I'll be right back after this.
The Hometown Foundation is excited to bring back the Dream Ride experience, August 26th to the 28th at Connecticut's Farmington Polo Club. Join us in celebrating the accomplishments of our Dream Riders while enjoying live music, a car and motorcycle show, family fun zone, pet adoptions, canine demonstrations, the Fireman's Chili Cook-Off, and much, much more. Get your tickets today.
There you go, guys. So check out the website. It's a great. Sorry, I'm having trouble. I'm struggling for words tonight. As you heard at the top of the show, it's just tough to go on tonight, but we're going to do that. It's a great place to donate money to, and make sure that you do that. Northeast Streaming Sports is heavily involved in it, and also make sure that you check out coming up soon, June 27th. Listen, I'll be part of a fundraiser called Keep the Dream Alive. It's really sponsored by Northeast Streaming Sports and I'm going to mispronounce the name, La Fagara. It sounds awful, doesn't it? Restaurant. It's a fundraiser to support Connecticut semi-pro football. And I know some of my audience are former semi-pro football players, and they know what it means to these players to be able to play. And listen, I don't even know how I got to be part of this show, because not only will there be players from the Connecticut Falcons and the Enfield Northmen, but it's going to be hosted by ESPN, well-known ESPN personality and Connecticut sports personality Joe D'Ambrosio. Mac and Jack will certainly be there. The great Jim Jeffcoat from the Dallas Cowboys will be flying in. The Philly sports guy, Iceman Scully, and Dr. Paul Semendinger. So going to be a great time. We're going to do some live stuff from there, and we'll have some fun that night. It goes 3 to 9, I believe, on the 27th. I know it's a Monday, so it'll be tough for some of you, but hopefully you'll check us out, and we'll have some fun. So with no further ado, and we want to jump into some of these topics. I know Alan certainly had a question on Sunday that he wanted to ask Jim, and I said we would get to it tonight, which we will. It'll be our second topic, but we will get in. Good evening, Jim Biringer. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. It's good to have you with us. And, as I mentioned at the top of the show, we often talk about, we mostly have you on our Sunday show to talk about hockey, which is certainly enough going on there, which we'll get into later in the week, not tonight, but go Rangers is all I'll say. And obviously the champions have moved on, but enough said there. If you want to throw out a quick note, you can do that, but
I'm just going to say the champs are a champs for a reason. If you think Tampa if you got Tampa early on in the playoffs on the money line for anything above 500, be glad you did it because they're looking good right now. To me, nobody's beating them. Rangers, it's a homer series. Colorado looks for handshakes tonight, and Calgary, Edmonton could be over tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. A lot of hockey left, but good to be back here on the Wednesday college football show. We were doing it a lot towards the end of last season. Yep. It was great to be here talking football again.
And we'll certainly have you on this coming season when we get to real games, and even where it makes sense to bring you on, we'll chat because we got to fill a lot of time here until the games start.
I know, right? Well, I mean, there's been spring games and stuff, so that's
there has, and we'll certainly be diving into this. There's always going to be stories in college football. I mean, we've got one we want to touch on. The two I'm going to talk to you specifically about are this, and Alan wanted to talk about the conferences, which we'll get into as I kind of pushed his question from Sunday to today. But now you wanted to talk, and so do I, about this whole Saban Jimbo dust up, which I think is really kind of interesting, right? Jimbo Fisher, for those who don't know, was I was going to say Lou Saban. Good, I was really going to age myself there.
Wow, that's going back a ways.
I guess, right? Nick Saban's offensive coordinator at LSU a gazillion years ago when they won a national championship, and they've been rivals, obviously, for the last several years after Jimbo came to Texas A&M, and recently. Nick Saban made a comment about the fact that Texas A&M has got the best recruiting class in the country because they basically bought and paid for all of them, which is certainly an issue in college football in general these days. And Nick Saban Jimbo Fisher retorted with some unkind words to his former boss about being a narcissist and, some people thinking they're God. He's the greatest ever, huh? Well, when you've got all the advantages, it's easy. So, going to be interesting this year. Well, it's always interesting in the SEC, but I think this year's Alabama-Texas A&M game ought to be really an interesting affair.
Yeah, October 8th. Circle the date. I looked it up. That's the date. That's the game. It's probably going to be a CBS game, like they always are. SEC on CBS. I mean, that's going to be the big slot. I mean, look out. Look, they had to cancel media week because of these two in the SEC because of what happened. Now, not only did Saban call out Jimbo Fisher, he was talking about Deion Sanders and over in Jacksonville State. Saban took back his comments, but Jimbo shouldn't be saying anything negative about Saban considering, look at his past when he was at Florida State. I mean, Jamin Winston situation, some stuff that happened there, some recruiting stuff. That's why he got out of town. None of these guys have clean hands in any of this.
That's what's funny about the whole thing. How can any coach throw shade on anybody else in the NCAA today?
No, because I mean, look, Saban has a point with. I think what his main point was like the whole the NIL stuff, the NFTs, like all this stuff, like the making money. Like he just doesn't think it's like a good idea, and I think that was the crux of everything. The fact that he called out Jimbo Fisher and Deion Sanders and all that stuff, I think he knows he probably shouldn't have just called out them. I think he's just calling out the whole system and like the NIL stuff. And I don't think he's a big fan of it. I think we've heard with Dabo even mention it too, that he's just not a fan of this stuff. And it definitely is turning college football and the recruiting process into like a pro style thing. Who can give out the most money, who can get the bigger NIL stuff and all that kind of thing.
The whole, you're right. And Saban did speak out about it. And it's funny because obviously if I was a coach of Alabama, I wouldn't want other schools to be able to get a leg up by offering, an NIL deals, which, by the way, I have this constant back and forth with Carlos about, he keeps claiming the schools aren't involved in setting these deals up for these kids. And he's full of, what? I'm sorry, Carlos, if you're there, but I've told you to your face, so I guess it doesn't matter. You're nuts if you don't think the boosters are involved in this. Those people are really there. I understand they're not representatives of the schools, but you don't think the schools are helping this process along? You're just crazy. And the fact that, the NCAA to say for whatever state doesn't have any legislation about this, we'll just let the schools police themselves. I mean, that's a brilliant way to go about this, because we know how great restraint these schools show in this.
Oh yeah, right? Oh yeah, real restraint. And look at all the deals the schools have anyway. Adidas with Miami. You got all these schools, Nike with Oregon. Like all these schools have their own deals with everything. But you know, the schools are involved, the boosters are involved, former players are probably involved getting these deals. Now, granted, on the lower level in the other sports, the kids do it themselves, but we're talking about the major sports here, and they're doing it. And you know, there's going to be involvement. Look, no one says Saban is a clean guy. I'm not saying he got a pass, whatever. He's one of the greatest coaches ever to coach college football.
Well, that was going to be my point. And I'll throw it out there and I'll bring it back to you, because I'm going to go to Rick's point here a little bit. Yeah, Nick Saban's been given a pass, and there isn't a guy, including Kirby Smart, I'm sure, Rick. I'm serious. You got to be. They've all got a little bit of dirt on them. I don't care who they are. They got a little bit of dirt on them. Nick Saban, you can't say he's not. I do think he's the best college coach in the history of the game. Has he got an advantage at Alabama? Sure he does. But what did the guys do before him? It isn't a built-in, here's the keys to the championships trophies, right? I mean, you look at the guys before him. How many coaches came and went between Bear Bryant and Nick Saban? Now, Gene Stallings had a little bit of a run there, won a national championship, but there's 8 other coaches who failed. So it's not like you're guaranteed success.
But okay, so let's rewind the clock when he was at LSU. What if he stayed at LSU? It would be the same thing.
Yeah.
Like LSU would be Alabama, you know? But he decided to go take the Dolphin thing. And then I think if things didn't work out there, I think if Drew Brees stays with Miami, he still might have been who knows if he came back. Maybe Dolphins, everything like that. But yeah, I mean, look, that rivalry's been together ever since Manziel was there with Alabama and Texas A&M. I mean, I think those two schools, it's been a great rivalry since Texas A&M has come over. It's been a really good competitive matchup either side. I think Bama's really blown them out at home. The games are a little closer in A&M. But yeah, that's a game to watch. Look, I can't wait for college football to come back because the games are awesome, but they just give us some stuff to talk about, and the dust up is great. I mean, I think it's great for the sport.
Yeah, it is good because those guys who are, die to talk about college football, we need stuff to talk about. This is great. And I've talked about the NIL, and I promised I wouldn't talk about it on every show, but it's almost impossible not to. And then you have this come up, and I haven't had you on to talk about this, so I will dive into the whole topic. When you put all the factors together that you can basically pay kids to come to your school, then you have the transfer portal where other school can negotiate with them with a better NIL deal and try to get them to move. And the fact that coaches are able to move around and just leave their contract behind. I mean, it's just it's a recipe for disaster for the NCAA. And it just seems to be running amok and nobody willing to do anything to put a little governor on this thing at all.
Well, look, look. I'm not trying to solve the problems of college football tonight, but I will say.
We only got an hour and a half.
I know. But I will say, I said this on the show when we finished after all the bowl season and stuff. If regular season stats count in the bowl season, and the bowl season is part of the regular, quote unquote, regular season, then anything after bowl season is free game. No recruiting, no changing coaches until the national championship is over. That solves a lot of the problem.
Yeah, I think you're right, but both in the transfer portal and the coaching movement, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
because you guys are going to sit out, coaches move, teams lose coaches going in these bowl games, especially if they have good records. Now their coach is gone. It's like, no, you stay until the bowl game is over. Once the bowl game is over, once the national championship is played, then the season is over, transfer portal opens, everything else is free game.
Let's Carlos listen to Bizarro Universe. Poor Carlos isn't here to defend himself tonight. If he comes in later, he'll wonder what the hell's going on. I know it's craziness, and I don't know where this is going to end. I mean, Mike Emmert being out of the NCAA presidency is a good start because this guy's been asleep at the switch since the day he took office. They need somebody with a strong hand. If the NCAA is even going to last, we don't even know that.
Oh, who knows?
There's all this talk, and I guess I'll talk about this real quick since we're talking about it. There's a lot of talk about, the power conferences just breaking off and forming their own, league, or I shouldn't say league, but what do you want to call it? Just their own conglomerate, let's say,
right.
and play their own schedules and play for their own championship. And that would be bad, really bad for the rest of the schools, I think, in the FBS level. I mean, what are your thoughts about that? Do you think that the NCAA can continue the way it's going, or is it going to get broken up?
I mean, I think they have to adapt, and I think once Emmert leaves, and I think if they get a new president that's willing to adapt to the culture that we're in right now, and with the NIL and all this stuff, and not really treat it as amateur athletics anymore, which, I mean, it still is, but let's face fact, it's not. It's a business. And if we're going to treat it like a pro league now, which it's kind of turning into, and drop this amateur athletic stuff, then you're not going to have these leagues and these power conferences break away, because that's what they're doing, because it's a feeder system to the NFL anyway. So I'd like to see that the NCAA stays around, because it would be great. But I mean, look, who knows really? I know there's a lot of talk about like the SEC playing for their own like spot into the championship game. And instead of be like, oh yeah, you guys battle out, the winner gets us in a championship game. Like, really?
If they keep adding this conference, and the rumors are that they're looking to build a super conference, and that Ohio State and Clemson, and they're going to raid every conference and make this, a 25 team super conference. I mean, that is very well likely to
I mean,
what you're talking about. And I don't think that's good for college sports.
No, it's not. It's not. I mean, you want to have a legit like winner, but the SEC is not always going to have a guaranteed spot in a championship game. Like right now, they're the best conference in the whole sport of college football, obviously.
Oh, obviously.
But I mean, to have a super conference, then it's just like, come on. Like now we're just ruining the game, and it's not fun, and you just need to have different teams involved. And it's like, okay, well, but it doesn't guarantee like, okay, so we're going to join the super conference. Okay. If we have this super conference, you do realize that Ohio State, Clemson, all those teams might not be as good as they are now.
Right.
Because they're going to wake up like we said with Texas and Oklahoma. The grass is greener where you are right now because you're the king. You ain't going to be the king in the SEC with Georgia, Alabama, LSU, and teams that are getting better. You do these teams do realize that, right?
Well, all they got to do is look at some of the case studies. Look at Texas A&M and look at Arkansas and look at, I mean, who else has come into that league? South Carolina. These teams have not, they've done well in other conferences before they came here.
A&M is finally like getting a footing in there.
Yeah.
But it took time.
Yeah, but Jimbo needs to win. Now he needs to start winning, getting to championship games, whether it's in the SEC even, much less the championship game. He can get all the great recruiting classes he wants because he does it year after year, it seems. But now it's time to start winning games.
Yeah, he has to get to the championship game. He has to be. Look, they were considered in the playoff for a while until they lost. And they had the big win over Bama. But, I mean, like, they got to win. They got to be in the SEC championship game eventually. Like, they have to be. But, at some point, they may not even be a championship game. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, the world of college football is going to be a lot different here in within the next 5 years. In 5 years, we won't recognize the game. That's what I'm afraid of. We won't recognize the game at all. And I guess on that topic, so let's switch topics a little bit and go to what Alan wanted to talk about Sunday, which is kind of interesting. The fact that, many of these conferences now are looking to, because the NCAA now has said you don't have to have 12 teams to play a conference championship game, right? So now the teams, even with more than 10 in their conferences, are going to do away with divisions and let number 1 and 2 play against each other, which would change the landscape a bit, like in the Big Ten, right? That Big Ten West. Is it Big Ten West or East? Big Ten West is not that strong.
No,
not like the East is. It's loaded.
No, East is loaded.
It's loaded. So that changes the whole landscape. I mean, and it might be good that you can get Ohio State and Penn State, or Ohio State and Michigan all in the championship game, where you can't get that now. The Pac-12 is going to adopt this, I believe, next year.
Well, that's good for them, though. I was thinking about this today. I think that's good for them because the other side of the Pac-12 is so weak. Like, if they can be like the Big 12 is now and just play a conference schedule, I think that would help the Pac-12 more, because I think it hurts them right now because of the two conferences, the two divisions in there, because the game is usually pretty weak. I mean, Utah got there this year and beat the snot out of, I believe it was Oregon. They beat them twice twice in a 3-week period.
Yeah.
But I think that would be good. I mean, granted, it kind of hurts the Big 12 at some point, but I think but the game did matter. Like, think about this. The Big 12 championship game mattered this year, especially if Oklahoma State won.
I mean, you would have got the same game, though, in the Pac-12. I mean, if they'd gone with no divisions, you had the same game.
Yeah, but you still had a rematch in the Big 12. But we were talking about this going into the final weekend. What if Oklahoma State won and Cincinnati won? Who would have gotten in? It would have been really tough.
I'd be willing to bet this beautiful U hat, by the way. Yeah. I did notice the Miami shirt. I wanted to mention that. I would be willing to bet that hat and your shirt that Oklahoma State would have got in and Cincinnati would have been on the outside looking in.
Probably, yes.
I don't think it'd be right, but I think that's what would have happened.
Right, but I think it's a good idea because, especially for the Pac-12, because they need it. Because some of these games are just not that compelling. If you have everybody playing each other like the Big 12 is doing, I think it's better to have a true conference schedule like they have. Like, it's hard, and then you have, if you have a rematch in the championship game, you have a rematch in the championship game. For the Big Ten, if they do it, I totally agree. I think it would be great if you had Michigan and Ohio State meet in the championship game. Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan State in there. Maybe one of those bad, like on the other side, maybe Wisconsin somehow makes a run and it's near the top, or Iowa's up there again. Who knows? But it just makes it compelling if you're playing a true conference schedule for 12 weeks.
I think it's funny. It's funny because I think if this were in play last year, the only power conference anyway, that there would have been a different matchup in the conference championship game would have been the Big Ten, because it would have been Ohio State and Michigan, I believe.
The rematch. Yeah, it would have been the rematch.
And that would have been a very interesting scenario for sure. But again, I'm not sure. I mean, these conferences get too big anyway, because when you get to the SEC and you're like, how often is Texas A&M going to play Texas going forward? They should play them every year. They likely won't.
No, they should play them every year.
They don't take these things into consideration. And maybe if they went to no divisions, they could schedule that way a little bit more. And look into getting some of the old rivalries back together, because they're gone right now in a lot of cases.
Yeah, they are. These old rivalries are gone, and I think if you had that in the Big Ten, especially, you get some of those old rivalries.
Amanda loves the hat.
She does have that hat. She does have that hat.
You got this hat?
She has that hat. Yeah, she has that hat. Yep. That hat. Yes. By the way, I was told that a new drop today from Miami and Adidas at the Kane store. So,
yeah.
So
I'll have to check it out. I need some new swag from the U.
Exactly. But I think we would like to see some of these old rivalries back again, I think that would be a way to get the rivalries back, because we're losing so many of them.
Yeah. And that's, to me, for years that drove college football. It's the rivalries that matter, and there aren't going to be any if we continue on this path that we're on.
Right, exactly. I mean, even if you think about it, say the SEC did that, at least we wouldn't have like cupcake games at the end of the year where like Alabama's playing Chattanooga before they play Auburn. Like, at least that wouldn't happen.
Did I steal Jim's light up hat?
No, I have my light up hat still. I still have it.
No, I don't think I can pull that off, Rick. So I gotta leave that.
No, you cannot.
I got a couple of I got a couple. Michigan shot their load. They won't be back. I don't know. I really don't know. I think they might be. I think they might have got over the hump. But the Big Ten's tough. You know, and you cannot take your foot off the gas even for a minute there because Ohio State's going to stay at the top. Michigan State's going to be tough. Penn State, I don't know. I'm not a big James Franklin.
Not with Franklin. Not with Franklin there.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan there either. And I don't know why, man. They just keep extending him and extending him and extending him.
Bad decision.
You know, or he's going to go to somewhere like USC, and well, maybe he should go, and you should try to start over. I don't know.
I think USC is going to be a contender soon, though.
You know what? Since we're talking about the U, let's talk about. I don't think I've had you on since Marco Cristobal got the job. With the ACC kind of as wide open as it is, Clemson will be better, I think, this year.
Yeah, they'll be definitely better this year.
They got to fix that offense, and hopefully. I mean, they lose their offense coordinator, so that's not a good start. But
no,
I do think that they will be better. Look at the team. What were they last year? They were only 10 and. Hang on one second.
Who, Clemson or the U?
Clemson right now. I mean, they had a bad year and they were 10-2.
Yeah, they were 10-2, and they were making a run toward. If they hadn't lost like one game towards the end, they would have been in the ACC title game again.
Right. They were. Where the heck are they? Yeah, 10-3 overall. So
yeah, 10-3 overall. But I mean, look, they had a good regular season. I mean, it's down by them because they didn't make the championship game. But
for most schools, that's a pretty good season, you know. So anyway, they're going to be better. NC State, I don't know if that was more than a 1-year flash. I got to see more out of them.
I can't say anything on it because a 1-year wonder could be. They could drop back again. I
mean, Wake Forest plays no defense. Sorry, don't tell Larry Sorensen I said that when we finally get Larry back on. But they
don't. But they don't play no defense.
They don't. So that side of the
it's going to take a step back with no Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, assuming this is another conference that's talking about eliminating divisions, but they haven't made any final decision on it. And I don't know if they can put it into play for this coming year, this late or not. But assuming they don't. That coastal division is wide open for the Hurricanes. I mean,
absolutely.
Pittsburgh's going to certainly take a step back. Virginia's not that good. They got a new coach. Everybody's got a new coach here. Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech's going to have a new coach soon because that guy's on his way out. Collins is going to be on his way out, and you got Duke. So Miami is going to be, I think, be in the championship game, and I think they will have a team that will get better and better and better during the course of the year, and Marco Cristobal is a great guy to bring in to restore the luster of this program.
Well, I
don't like the way. Let me finish one real quick. Sorry, I do have to put one disclaimer on that. I don't like the way they went about hiring him.
No, me either.
They still had a coach, but it is.
I didn't like it either because I think towards the end, Hurricanes were playing better, especially when they changed quarterbacks. I think that system. Suited the guy there.
Van Dyke is
exactly. He was just better for the system, and I think the team was playing better. Now again, you know, they can't come out keep beating their chest about this is the old. They got to put wins together. They got to start building it back up again. But the Coastal's wide open for them to be there again. I mean, they got to start winning these big games again, and but they have the team to do it. The recruiting class is there. But the problem is they've never the home that they had in the Orange Bowl is just not the same place when you're playing an NFL stadium. Like they need their own stadium that is theirs.
We've talked about that ad nauseum on the show and certainly with you. I mean, it's sad to watch these games sometimes on a Saturday afternoon or Saturday early evening, and there's the place is half empty at Hard Rock. I mean. They need to be closer to campus for sure.
Absolutely. It's just a tough drive. And, you see it in other sports when the arena is not in the right location, they just don't do it. So let's see what happens. Again, I agree. The Coastal's wide open. We'll see. You got to be optimistic. If you're Canes fan that they Cristobal's the guy. I mean, he was there before he worked, he was part of, bringing back legacy and stuff. So let's see if you can bring one of your own in and turn this thing around.
Who else? Again, I do think Miami's one of those teams that, if you're looking for teams outside of, say, the top 15 or whatever last year that could make a huge jump this coming year. I put Miami in that classification. Is there anybody else that stands out to you, Jim, as somebody who can make that leap and and certainly get themselves in the playoff conversation out of nowhere?
I think USC can. I think with Lincoln Riley. I think they got the right guy there, because I think what he did with Oklahoma and everything, I think he's a good coach. I really do. I think they can make a run there. It's not going to be easy, because I think Utah's still really good, and they're coming strong. And then, oh, by the way, down in the Canes got the strength coach from Oregon, the guy who does every year the Fill the Sleeves challenge. He's a really good guy. He turned that Oregon program around with the strength training and the training off field. He's really good, so that'll help that Canes team, especially down there. You talk about, I think a team that's going to stay around is going to be like a team like Ole Miss. I don't think they're going away. I think they're going to make life difficult for a lot of people.
I got to tell you, this guy's, you're the only guy who ever comes on my show that agrees with me about Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin.
Look, am I a Lane Kiffin guy? Not really, but I think he's a good coach, and I think he's going to keep Ole Miss around.
So while we're on the topic of Lane Kiffin, I said on the show last week, and we had a long, pretty lively debate about this, that if I'm Arch Manning and I have my choices of the schools that he's going to visit, Alabama, Georgia, I mean, he's going to go there and have a better chance to win a national championship. But what's a better story? If I'm Arch Manning, NILs don't matter, because I'm bringing my star with me. It doesn't matter where I go. He could go to, what was that? Dixie State, which I just found out was playing FBS football now. He could go there and he'd get big NIL money. So it doesn't matter where he goes for that. It doesn't matter for the next level. He's going to be a high NFL draft pick, assuming he doesn't get hurt or something awful happens to him. So if I'm Arch Manning, I'm thinking to myself, what's the best story? What's the best the way I could write if I could write a fairy tale ending to my amateur career, I'd go to where my dad went to school, where my grandfather went to school, and go to Ole Miss and see if I could win a national championship, but they couldn't.
Wait, didn't Eli go there too?
And I'm sorry, and his uncle Eli. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, but Eli,
I've been trying to leave the uncles out of this, right?
Right,
because
right.
He tries to tell me how much influence Peyton has, and I'm thinking, but what about his dad and his granddad? I guarantee are the ones driving this train.
I mean, I think it would be a cool story if he went to Ole Miss and be like, all right, we're going to bring you to a national title or something. Like, that's a cool story to me.
And Rick's all over.
We're going to Georgia. I think they'll have their quarterback before Arch Manning gets to Georgia.
It's funny. I look. He's probably going to Georgia. He's probably going to Alabama, or I think where's his other official visit? I think is Texas, right? He's probably going to one of those schools. But if I'm Arch Manning, what big deal? I go there and I'm just another guy who won a national championship at Alabama. And Georgia, maybe not so much. It's not run of the mill, but still, it's not as big a deal if I go to Georgia and win a national championship. If I go to my father or my grandfather's alma mater and win a national championship, oh my God.
That's big. That's a big deal.
It's the biggest story of all, but I can't convince anybody. They all think they hate that the Mannings hate Lane Kiffin. I can't find one quote, one article anywhere that says anything negative about Lane Kiffin, except for Peyton Manning when he left Tennessee, which I get.
All right, so but Lane Kiffin ain't at Tennessee anymore, so he's there. Okay, big deal. So what? It'd be a cool story. I would be on board with that 100%. I like these fairy tale endings.
I think it'd be a great story. So let's get back to what we're talking about here. Surprise. Rick talks about Nebraska maybe being a strong team. You know what? As long as they got the conference as long as they have the divisions in the Big Ten, then Nebraska maybe could sneak up this year. They played a lot of close games last year. They need to find a way to win.
Yeah.
And if they don't win this year, Scott Frost will be looking for a job next year for sure.
He's out the door.
So, but that's not a bad pick, Rick, because if they can win the West, then they get into the Big Ten championship game, and who knows? They get blown out only by 40 instead of 50 or something by Ohio State.
Right, exactly. I mean, look. The Big Ten West is so wide open, so anything's possible. I mean, Wisconsin had a chance last year. Iowa got in there. Minnesota was there one year. I mean, it's so wide open. I like Kirk Ferentz a lot at Iowa, but I mean, the guy's never going to win a big football game just because the way they play the game. I think it's just they don't have what it takes to win in the big place. If you remember, they did get to the playoff once, so I got to give them credit for that. But they got blown out, I think,
big time by, if I remember, it might have been Alabama. I think it might have been the very first playoff. I'm not sure. 14 playoff.
No, first year playoff, Ohio State won.
No, Iowa. I'm talking about getting in it.
Yeah. They got blown out easily.
Yeah. Great coach, but he's going to just lose every Big Ten championship game he ever goes to.
The problem is with Iowa is they're so good at home, but they play so many close games on the road.
Yeah. Good point. I mean, they just don't play enough offense either.
They don't. They rely on their defense too much. That's not a recipe to win.
Yeah. So outside of the Power Five conferences, I mean, obviously you and I were both rooting strongly for Cincinnati to make the playoff last year.
We'll see what happens this year. We'll see what happens this year.
Who do you see as potentially this year's Cincinnati?
Oh, man, so difficult. I mean, I don't know, because Cincinnati made that run up the rankings for so many years, and they finally got in. I don't know. It's going to be tough because I think the Power Five conferences there's so many good teams. Unless like Cincinnati runs it back again, like they could potentially get in again, but it's going to be tough for any team outside, because the problem is they start so low unless you've had history of doing this.
Correct.
That's the problem, and they don't move up that often.
And they look for any reason to bump you down once you get
Exactly. Once you lose, there's any reason or you play a close game. Too many close games, you don't move, and teams pass you by.
I think if there's one team I would say could fill that bill this year, and that will start fairly low, obviously, is Houston. Houston had a really good team last year. We're in the same conference as Cincinnati, and that's a team that I could see potentially running the table. But again, I don't know that that's going to be enough because of the league they play in. And the problem is, and I also like Texas San Antonio a lot, but if they run the table, their conference just is not good enough to
they're not good enough. No, they're not good enough.
That's why they need to expand this thing. Again, I'm going to say this one more time, and I'll get sued by this guy from YouTube again. 16-team playoff, guys. Every conference winner gets in, and you take, I think you'd still have 6 at-large teams. Plenty of room for the teams from the SEC that don't win it. You can take all 5 from, I don't care, the at-large teams from the SEC if you guys want that. But I want to see every conference champion have a chance for this thing. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
I mean, right now it's not going to change for a few years. So
no, I know it's in because they're nuts. How about one other thing I'll bring up to you as far as teams? What about Notre Dame? They've got a big coaching change this year, obviously with Coach Kelly going to LSU and Freeman stepping in. Their defensive coordinator. I think this is the one coaching change that is kind of seamless and probably is going to help them because they're night and day. Freeman is a guy, an energy kind of guy, and I think he's going to fire this team up.
Well, I mean, in the bowl game, they had that. They were up huge.
Yeah.
Against, I believe they played Oklahoma State, right?
They did in the Fiesta Bowl, I think, right?
They were up huge and ended up losing, but I thought Freeman did a good job in his coaching debut.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame's going to be relevant this year, and I think a lot of people think they may take a step back, but I think they'll be in the playoff hunt before it's over.
I think they'll be in the playoff hunt too. I think they'll be there. Just the schedule. It's Notre Dame. If they're undefeated towards the end and then the rankings come out, they're going to be high because it's Notre Dame.
Well, before I let you go, Jim, any other topics in the NCAA that are you're chomping at the bit to say we need to talk about this?
Not too much. I mean, I think we covered a lot of the topics that I wanted to cover today and what you wanted to cover today here on college football. It's just good to be back talking football here again as we round out. I mean, hopefully, hopefully Army's got a good team this year because it's always good to see the academies do well. Jeff Monken, a great coach, just a great coach. They capped off their season so well last year with that bowl win and that late field goal, and you could see the ecstatic on their team. Yep. Even though they lost to Navy, I think that just helped them end their season on the right note.
Great story. I talked about Texas San Antonio. They're coming to West Point to play. I think in September they'll be there, and I'm thinking about going down to that game actually. So
check. I mean, it's always fun to go to the games there. I mean, usually it's like a 12 p.m. start anyway, so you're out of there early. So
yeah, it's only like an hour and a half ride for me, so it's awesome. listen, anytime you have something that you want to talk about college football, just shoot me a note. We'll get you in here on a Wednesday night, and we'll chat about it. And we'll certainly look forward to having you on Sunday to get us back up to speed on these Stanley Cup playoffs. It's been an exciting time for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely. We potentially could be at third round by that point, on the cusp of at least the third round, maybe a Game 7 in the Carolina Rangers series. Who knows at this point?
We're all getting ready for that Lightning Ranger series.
That'd be a rematch from 2015 if it happens.
Be a lot of fun. Jim,
it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy. Just enjoy.
We will. Thanks for coming in tonight. We'll see you Sunday, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me. Good to be back.
All right. Tell Amanda, best hat in the world.
Absolutely. I will do.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Great having Jim Biringer in here tonight. We talked about a couple things that we kind of blew off on the Sunday show, so I thought we'd bring him in here to talk about the Jimbo Saban thing. And, I don't know. Hey, Rick, I want to go to your comments since, I didn't mean to blow past them. Look at you guys can. Let me bring this up. I'm going to bring the other banner back up for the moment. I mean, and again, as a Georgia fan, I certainly understand your feelings about Nick Saban. But I don't have any reason to think Nick Saban does anything more underhanded than any other big-time college football coach. I got to believe if he was that dirty, he'd got in trouble a long time ago. I was looking to see if there was any more news about, this potential. Yeah, I don't see anything. I haven't seen anything in a couple of weeks now on the potential violations that Saban was, I don't know if you want to say accused of or what, but look, to me, there's no doubt in my mind that he is the best college football coach in the history of college football. And I know there's been a lot of good ones. And I don't mean to put shade on Bear Bryant or John McKay, Joe Paterno. Listen, his legacy is tarnished, not because of Joe Paterno. He didn't do exactly the right thing. We know that. But look at what was he going to do? I don't know. That's a whole nother topic, I guess. But Joe Paterno is one of the great coaches of all time. Bobby Bowden, Steve Spurrier. To me, Nick Saban tops them all of them. And I don't agree with Jimbo's comments about built-in advantages. I mean, he's got a built-in advantage because he's restored this school to the glory that it had before. But how good were they under Ray Perkins? How good were they under Brian Du Bois, I think his name was? How good were they under Francione? How good were they under Shula? How good were they under Gene Stallings won a national championship? I'm trying to think who else was there. Mike White had the job for about 6 minutes till he went to a strip club. Got a fan going and my whole background's blowing all over the place here. I apologize. So again, when he took this job, this school was not way up here winning national championships or even competing for national championships every year. But he restored that luster. And I think there's something to be said about that. What do you got, Rick? It was nice to see the smug look wiped off his face this year. Listen, all props to Georgia and Kirby Smart. And I got a topic I want to talk about. I think, Rick, you'll like this one. All props, anyway. Let me finish my comment. Jeez. All props to Georgia and Kirby Smart. They did a great job. You beat Alabama after losing them in the conference championship game, which I'm still shocked at. This was a flawed Alabama team that he still got to the national championship game. So, I mean, we have to remember that. I doubt I can find this article. But the question came up, and I'll pose this because, Rick, I know you're a big Georgia fan, and obviously now, at least now, a great Kirby Smart fan. The question came up, I'm going to try to find this article so we can chat a little bit about it. I'll bring up this because I've had this banner for a while. Since we're on Nick Saban, the question was posed here a few weeks back, and I never did get to it. Let me just see. Maybe I don't have it up anymore. I thought I did. The question came up, what about oh, here it is right here. Nick Saban. What if Nick Saban retired? What would his, looking for his replacement look like? Would it be Kirby Smart? Would it be somebody off the staff? Would it be somebody totally not connected with the program, which I doubt they'll do? They've done that before when they went to Mike White. I just mentioned Mike White not Mike White. Mike Price. I said Mike White. Mike Price is the guy I was thinking of from Washington State years ago. If you remember, he got the job and he had it. And if he had it for about 10 minutes. Again, he went to a strip club and that was the end of that. So, but would Kirby Smart be the guy? I mean, again, he came from Alabama's staff, one of Nick Saban's most trusted lieutenants. He left to go to a hated rival within the same conference. What would it look like if he were to retire? And by the way, I doubt he's anywhere near retiring. But I think it'd be very interesting. And I can't find the damn article now. I've had this forever. Where would they go? Would they lure another big name coach the way USC brought Lincoln Riley in? Would they stay in the program, as I said? I don't know where they go. I really don't. I personally think that they would go really hard after Kirby Smart is what they would do. And it will come up sometime. Nick Saban's not a young guy. He's not going to coach forever. I guess he could coach another 10 years, but is that likely? The way the game is today? I do think they go very hard after Kirby Smart if this happens. Nick Saban has changed the trajectory of not just Alabama, but he changed the trajectory of the NFL as well. He changed the trajectory of LSU by winning a national championship and then leaving to go to Miami. Carlos Chavez could lead the program, then fire himself. I think you use that. I think you've used that line out before, Rick, on some other ones. Oh my God! Let me just see if I keep finding the same article. It's not the one that I want. It's one that Lane Kiffin commented on when he might retire. But I think it's an interesting conversation that we'll have to have at some point. It'll be interesting to say if they stay in-house, if they go outside for a big name coach, and if they go outside for a big name coach, is it going to be somebody like Kirby Smart that has ties to the program and a successful track record, or do they just bring in the biggest name like USC did with Lincoln Riley? So I think it'll be very interesting to see that. What else is on your guys' mind tonight? Oh gosh, so much stuff going on in the world of college football. I had an article here I wanted to look at, and I did have some stuff in. I was reading an article too about some coaches, that could rise and fall this year. Right, their star could either be attached to a shooting star, let's say, so they could really rise and become the next big thing and the next big. Talk of a big-time college job or even an NFL job, or they could end up in trouble. So let's look at a couple of these teams. Nick is 70 years old. That's a good point, Rick. So he's 70 years old, but I don't know. Is this a Joe Paterno situation where he's going to coach till he's 80 years old? Or has he only got 2 years left, 3 years left? Bill Belichick's 70 years old. I don't see him stepping down the next couple of years. Again, assuming their health stays what it would need to be to have the energy level to lead a Division I football team or an NFL team in Belichick's case. Let's take a quick look, and I'll wait for your comments, Rick. We'll certainly circle back here. Some of the coaches that may again either ascend and get into the conversations of the next round of the coaching carousel next year for a better job, or be in trouble. In the ACC, a couple of names that stand out are Jeff Hafley at BC. He's 12-11 in 2 seasons, but listen, this team was in disarray when he got there. And he's a first-time coach. He took this job amid a pandemic, and he's done a pretty good job. And he did it without his starting quarterback for much of that time, and Phil Jurkovec, who's likely an NFL draft pick next year. So this is a team that if they, kind of continue the trend that they've had and they get better the next few years, I should probably change my banner. I don't have a banner for this, so we'll put something else up. I can see him being in line for an upgrade next year when the coaching carousel starts. On the other side, Florida State, Mike Norvell's in trouble. He did a great job at Memphis. He's been in Tallahassee for 2 years now, 2 seasons. He's had trouble getting momentum going. They played better the last half of last year, but his 2 arch rivals in Florida are going to be getting better. Florida's going to get better. Miami's definitely getting better with Marco Cristobal, as we talked about. And since Jimbo left, this team's backslid badly. They had a brief turbulent run with Willie Taggart at the helm. And the problem for Mike Norvell is Deion Sanders, who everybody thought was a clown and this was a joke when Jackson State hired him. I think he's proving that he's not a joke. He's in this to succeed. He's in this to win it, if you will. He got one of the top recruits in the country to bypass Florida State and go to Jackson State. And it's guaranteed that if Mike Norvell doesn't get off to a good start this year or have a really strong season in the ACC, that Deion's name is going to come up for this job. It's inevitable now. I don't think Deion's a joke. I really don't. I mean, look at, he's got the colorful boy, I can't say it. Colorful personality. But he can coach. He's done a great job there. Skipping over to UConn, Jim Mora can only improve. You look at UConn's one of the worst programs in the country. Jim Mora's got, some pedigree. His last job was at UCLA, certainly a very good football school. He's coached 2 different teams in the NFL. His dad was a really good coach. Jim Mora is going to make that team better. Question's going to be, if he makes them better, is Jim Mora going to look to improve himself? And I'm sure that's the context where Rick brings that up. He could get himself into the next carousel. If he leads UConn to a winning season this year, which wouldn't be undoable because, they're not going to play the best schedule in the country. But this team's got a long ways to go. And it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Scott Frost, or I was still in the ACC, sorry. Jeff Collins at Georgia Tech is in big trouble. Georgia Tech was a really good football school for a long time. It wasn't that many years. I guess it was that many years ago, 20 years ago. Maybe more than that. Sorry, probably 90. I don't know the year. But Bobby Ross split a national championship at Georgia Tech. Paul Johnson came from Navy and had really good teams for a lot of years. Now, the program started to slip under Paul Johnson, And they brought in Jeff Collins, who's in his 4th year now, and this team has not gotten any better. In fact, I guess you would have to say it's gotten worse. So, it looks like they're potentially going to go back to the option that Paul Johnson brought there from Navy. But I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know that this team can really right the ship here. Another guy to think about, as we're talking about Navy, and they're not independent, so I'll throw them in here as I'm talking about ACC schools. Jeff Monken from Army has had a tremendous run and very successful, winning lots of games at Army. Now, is he happy there? He flirted with Tennessee last year, or 2 years ago, I guess. So he's had flirtations with bigger programs, better programs, if you will. I don't mean any disrespect to Army. But Jeff Monken could potentially get himself in a conversation in this next carousel. Who else? Mac Brown. I think Mac Brown, he's going to continue to fight. He was fighting retirement rumors last year as North Carolina's season just, spiraled down the drain to a 6-7 finish after a lot of hype going into the season with Sam Howell at quarterback and the team having won some big games a year before. And it just was not a good team, and replacing Sam Howell is not going to be an easy task for Mac Brown. And we could be looking at his swan song. We've talked previously about Syracuse and Dino Babers, who I think is a really good coach. And if he has another season like he had this year, he's going to be in trouble. And it's too bad because he's a really good coach. As recently as 2018, Syracuse was 10-3. The problem is they can't get consistent play out of their quarterback. It's just been, they did go 5-7 last year. They did have some signs of progress, close losses to Clemson and Wake Forest and Florida State. Now, Florida State, maybe that's not as good a loss as you think it is, but still, they showed a little bit of promise. And I do think he's one of the best coaches in it's certainly on the East Coast. And it'd be a shame if Dino Babers takes a fall here. Good evening, Carlos. Good to see you. You missed some good stuff earlier. Can't repeat it all. Wake Forest, Dave Clawson's name will continue to come up, as Wake Forest will likely have a very good season again this year, especially offensively. He did sign a new contract last year, an extension to keep him in Wake Forest, and he likes Wake Forest. But if he has a really good season this year, he'll be back in the rumors again, because guess what? Coaches and contracts in NCAA football mean nothing. Nothing. They all can walk away any time. No penalty, no anything. Carlos must have been looking at the comments. All you need is 1 year coaching Alabama, right? And get paid about $8 million, $10 million. What do you suppose? I don't know what Saban's making these days. I guess I could coach and you could fire me after 1 year and I'd be very happy. Now, UConn will improve this year. Listen, UConn UConn had a really good football program the first time around under Randy Edsall. Really good football program. They went to the Fiesta Bowl, I guess, probably 10 years ago. What really destroyed UConn was the Big East breaking up. They had nowhere to go. No place to play football that made any sense for them. The Big East going away destroyed their recruiting. And again, UConn is a great example of what all this realignment has done to ruin many a football program. Sure, it's been great for the SECs of the world. Excuse me. Sure, it's been great for some other some other schools, but it's been the ruination of schools like UConn. UConn is the poster child of football programs wrecked by realignment. $85 million is his full contract. Well, I don't know what that's for though. It's enough, I guess. He's going to get paid. If you had $85 million contract, you'd get paid if you got fired. So when UConn was a bona fide Division I football school wrecked by realignment. If the Big East had stayed intact and that first wave of realignment 2012 hadn't happened, UConn would still be a competitive football school today. Now, they did themselves no favors when Randy Edsall left the first time. Trying to remember where he went. I want to say South Florida, but I don't remember. But when he left, they hired Paul Pasqualoni from Syracuse and some other guys that just were not good picks for the program. But the program was doomed to fail once the Big East failed or disbanded, excuse me, as they were rated. Pioneer League. Carlos is all over. Well, listen, the football program still generates revenue. And there's no reason that any school needs to focus on one sport or the other. UConn, Jim Moore is a good football coach. But the problem is UConn can't recruit because there's no kids that want to come to the Northeast and play football. Syracuse is having the same problem. The Big East hurt Syracuse a lot as well, the Big East being dissolved. It hurt Pittsburgh for a long time. It's killed BC, another good football program here in the East. Eastern football was wrecked by this first wave of realignment back in 2012. You can't argue that point. No, they don't want to be there because there's no real league for them to play in. Right? When there was a Big East and you could travel to Syracuse and Pittsburgh and you could go to Florida because you wanted to go to Miami and play in December. Well, I shouldn't say December, in the late fall. And you had a TV contract. Again, realignment killed UConn football. Plain and simple. I have been to stores, absolutely. It's cold in a lot of places in November and December. It's cold in Michigan. It's cold in Ohio State. It's cold all through the Midwest. Give kids a reason to go to school there, they'll go. But once again, realignment killed this program. Sorry, I don't know how I got on that topic. Who else to watch out for? Jim Harbaugh. I think Rick mentioned it earlier that, Michigan blow their whole wad last year? Really good rebound season for Michigan last year. Beats Ohio State finally. Wins the Big Ten for the first time in 19 years. If they take a step backwards, though, and still he flirted with the NFL. Now he didn't get a job. And his NFL prospects may have dried up now. But if he gets really good again, if they have a really good season again, maybe those schools come looking at Jim Harbaugh again, or maybe Jim Harbaugh in Michigan is the best he's going to do. I don't think you'll see him coaching another college team. Minnesota, PJ Fleck went 9-4 last year, beat some really good teams, including Wisconsin for the second time in 4 years. PJ Fleck is going to start getting some more interest if he continues with this Minnesota program on an upward trend. They had a down year during the COVID season, but again, you have to dismiss that. Now, he does have a big buyout like most of these coaches do, but that doesn't matter. If a university wants you today, your contract means nothing. Your buyout means nothing. We'll pay it and move on. Nebraska, we talked about Scott Frost's problems. Scott Frost either wins this year and has a winning record and goes to a decent bowl game, or Scott Frost is getting fired. Now, it's possible if this team grows and learns from the losses they had last year, the Big Ten South or West. What the hell is it? Always mix those two up. What is it? Big Ten West. Hey, listen, the West isn't that strong. Nebraska could pull that division out. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Scott Frost is probably going to be looking for a new job come next year. Just my job. Just my thought. Purdue, Jeff Brom has done a great job at Purdue. 9-4 last year. Beat some really good football teams. Gone to bowl games. His name will be on the upside of this carousel, not the downside of this carousel, if he has another year like he had last year. What's going on here? Kids love Michigan State. I know that. Maybe, maybe not. Oh, he's got lots of money, so he'll be okay either way. Throw it out there, Carlos. I'm afraid to hear it, but go ahead. While I continue, you type. The Big 12, Iowa State. Now, every year we hear about Matt Campbell. Matt Campbell and Iowa State didn't have a good year last year, with a lot of high projections for them before the season. But Matt Campbell does his best coaching when nobody expects anything of him. I think he'll have a really good season this year, and I think you'll see him back on the upside of this carousel again next year. Pac-12, Arizona State, Herm Edwards is in trouble. I like Herm Edwards. I think he's a really good human being. But probably half of his coaching staff has been wiped out because of this recruiting scandal that's still being investigated. And I was a little surprised that he and the AD kept their job for this year. So it's looking to me and feeling to me like this program's headed in the wrong direction. And it's going to be very difficult for this team to compete for players and recruiting, especially with guys like Lincoln Riley moving into the Pac-12. I don't see how this is going to end well for Herm Edwards and Arizona State. Yeah, well. Oh, gosh. I'm not even going to go there. I'm not even going to go there. Too much controversy in ASU. I agree. Again, brought on by probably lack of oversight by the head coach and the AD. You're the guys who take the fall eventually. Where else? It's going to be interesting in UCLA this year, too. Chip Kelly, they've made progress each year he's been there. Last year it was kind of up and down, but he finished with a good record. They made it to a decent bowl game, I guess. And I do think this team needs to probably win 9 or 10 games next year, or Chip Kelly's seat is going to get very, very warm. So he would be on the downside of this carousel. The SEC, Alabama, again, the rumors swirl. What would happen if Nick Saban were to decide to retire? We talked about this just a little while ago. Guy I forgot to mention was Dabo Swinney, another former assistant. Marco Cristobal's name comes up, but he just took a job at Miami. He's not leaving for Alabama if Nick were to walk away in a year, which I still think he's going to coach another 5 years at least. Auburn, look at Harsin is in trouble there. He was lucky to keep his job this year because, kids are very thin-skinned today, and we can't be tough with them verbally. We have to pat them on the back about everything. But again, a lot of this goes to the fact that they were 6-7, and lost their last 4 games, I think. Listen, if this team was 10-3 or 11-2, Harsin would not have been getting the same heat he got for the way he approached coaching young men. I don't think you can argue that fact. So he needs to actually win, which is probably not going to happen because he's had some trouble with recruiting because of the talk about what's going on here. He probably needs 10 wins to save his job, and it probably is not going to happen. Yeah, I've talked about the news in the state of Texas today, and it's not good. I don't think the state of Texas is too worried about NIL for high school players today. I can't. I'm not going to go there, Carlos, only because I opened the show, with the awful story down there in Texas, and I'm just not going to really get into too much. I mean, I got into Texas A&M because we'd planned on doing it, but I'm not going to get into the NIL. And again, this is really bad news, by the way. I will address it really quickly. This can't be good news for anybody. The NIL doesn't work in NCAA sports. It's not going to work on a high school level. What's next? Modified baseball players get NILs. Little leaguers who are playing in the Little League World Series get NIL deals. Just stop. Why can't kids be kids? Good point, Carlos. Sorry, I think my assumption is you're always talking about NIL being good news. You have started to change your tune a little bit, though, Carlos, on this whole topic, which I've been very consistent about it being really bad and a really slippery slope. How about Kentucky and Mark Stoops? What a great job Mark Stoops has done at Kentucky. One of the toughest schools to probably win at in the country. He's had 2 10-win seasons since he's been there in 10 years. The last 4 ended with bowl wins. They could be positioned to be really good and potentially contend for, let me look at them real quick. Contend for the East crown, assuming Georgia steps back. If that happens, Mark Stoops, who's 55 years old, may be in line to get into a really big payday somewhere else. Could be very interesting to see what happens there. Iowa, for instance, if Kurt Friends were to decide to step down, would be a really good spot for Mark Stoops. Really good football coach, done a great job. And football, the Stoopses. We all know what his brother did at Oklahoma. And finally, Ole Miss, who, God, we all love to talk about Lane Kiffin, don't we, on the show? And everybody likes to bash him, although Jim Biringer, thank you, Jim, did back me up. UK will be sneaky this year, and that East is wide open for anybody to win, I think. Well, not anybody, but, he's not going to go. He's not leaving Kentucky for Georgia Tech, though. I talked about the fact that Georgia Tech's Coach Collins is probably in trouble. That school's been a disaster for the last, half a decade at least. And he's not taking that job Georgia Tech. I don't see, to me, that's a lateral move at best, maybe a backwards move for Mark Stoops. And he probably would fix the situation, Carlos, but to me, that's a backwards move. If he's going to leave the SEC and Kentucky, it's going to be for a better job, like Iowa. We'll see. Let's get back to Ole Miss and our favorite kick me when I'm up, kick me when I'm down coach, Lane Kiffin. He's made Ole Miss nationally relevant again, which have only been a handful of times in the last 40 years. And he's loaded up with talented transfers as he usually does. They finished number 11 last year in the country. If he can keep him in the top 15, he's going to become a very attractive candidate for some of the jobs that are going to come open again, like they do every year in the carousel. I think Lane Kiffin's happy at Ole Miss. Is Auburn going to potentially chase him down? Would he go to Auburn? He might. There was talk that he might have flirted with LSU last year. He didn't, or they did flirt with him. But what jobs would Lane Kiffin leave for? Again, I think he's happy at Ole Miss, and I think you may see him there for a while. He's not getting offered the Alabama job when Nick Saban retires, let's be honest. He's certainly not going to get offered the USC job ever again. So would he go to a school like Auburn, which is certainly a step up from Ole Miss, if you will? So it's possible if Lane Kiffin keeps that ship going up like he has, he will get offered this because Harson's going to lose his job unless he wins 10 games. Harson's going to be out. And we know that. Why is it a bad move? It's a bad move because it's not upward mobility, Carlos. We're talking about Stoops again. And again, because look at Georgia Tech, to me, is on the same level as Kentucky at best. They do have some history when you go back a ways. They did win a national championship or split a national championship in the 90s under Bobby Ross. But that was, they haven't had sustained success. I mean, they were a good football team under Paul Johnson for a lot of years, but they've been in a down cycle. And to me, that's not any better a job than Kentucky. And if he were to leave there, I think he'd be in demand at better schools than Georgia Tech. Iowa is a better job than Georgia Tech. I mean, what other schools might be looking for coaches this year when you think about it? Let's look at, and I'm only going to look at power conferences because that's all that matters. Well, Maryland, is that a better job? We already talked about Iowa. Minnesota? No, to me, that's probably a lateral job. And again, I'm saying because maybe, PJ Fleck decides to go somewhere else. I'm looking for jobs that are potentially going to come open. I miss the ACC, sorry. You talked about Georgia Tech. The job's probably going to come open, but who would go there? I don't see him going to any of these schools. Florida State, maybe. But Deion's going to get that job if they make a change. I'd be shocked if he didn't. Syracuse? No. Everybody already changed coaches in the Coastal, so that's not going to happen. Well, North Carolina could come open. I don't think that's an upward move for Coach Stoops either. Big 12, I'll get to your comments here in a second, Carlos and Rick. Nebraska, that's a good one, Rick. Nebraska's a good spot for Mark Stoops. If Frost gets fired, Nebraska's a good spot. I could get behind that. And that's a place where he goes and restores tradition. It's really a good thing. Yeah, I know we're booing Kiffin. I know that. he can't get on a playoff. Well, no, I disagree. If he wins the Big Ten, he's got a better chance of getting in a playoff than winning the ACC at Georgia Tech. In my mind. And again, I think that's a good place for Coach Stoops. Really underrated football coach, guys. Where else? Arizona State? I don't think so. Again, the jobs that are going to come open, to me, if he wants to stay in the SEC, it's going to be Auburn. If he doesn't mind leaving the SEC, it's going to be Nebraska, might be, or Iowa, if those jobs come open. Scott Frost would have to have a bad year and get fired, and Kirk Ferentz would have to decide to hang them up. He's not getting fired. He's been there too long, and he's had a lot of success. He hasn't had success winning national championships, but he's certainly been a successful Division I NCAA football coach. So that's it. We talked about a lot of stuff. I don't really have much more to talk about. If you guys got a quick topic that you want to chat about, let's see. Send Stoops to Atlanta. The Falcons or Georgia Tech? I just don't see it happening. I don't see where that's as big an upward climb as you seem to think. I talked about this before, Carlos, when I was talking about Collins being in trouble there if they don't get it going. Yes, they need a revival and they need a coach, and Stoops would be a great coach for them. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he wouldn't be a great coach for them. I'm just saying if my choice came to staying at Kentucky and building what I've already had, and that's the only other job I was offered was Georgia Tech, I wouldn't leave, not at 55 years old. Now, I might go to Nebraska, and I might go to Iowa, and I might go to Auburn. Don't see Georgia Tech. ACC does need to pick it up, and they're going to pick it up with one Marco Cristobal at the U. How's that sound? That probably doesn't sound very good when I do that, right? Anyway, guys, been a good show tonight. Again, maybe a little bit. We might have been a little bit down a little bit tonight as we started with the show. Please keep your thoughts and prayers with the families in Texas, as we did with the families in Buffalo. And we've got to find a way to stop this madness, guys. We need to be a kinder and gentler nation. And I'm really, I'm at a loss for words. So the show wasn't the easiest for me to do tonight. I thought about not doing it because I've not been happy really at all today after this news came down. And I don't know anybody in this situation. And I feel bad for the people that are. So I'm glad we were able to spend an hour and a half and get away from that real world. I thank you guys for participating. Carlos coming in late. Rick, as always. Alan, sorry you couldn't hang out with us tonight. Thanks to Jim Biringer for coming in and talking college football. We'll have him on here periodically. Guys, send me those topics you want to talk about on this show, as we got to fill time till the real games start. So we got to, and yes, prayers to Texas. Guys, keep them in your thoughts and prayers. And please say a prayer for a kinder and gentle country. We just need to I don't know how to fix this. I wish I did. This isn't a political show, so we're not going to get into all those topics. But we can start by being kinder and gentler to everybody in each other. And I'll try to. Carlos, I won't pick on you quite so much. Keith Engel, TGI Sports Talks, college football huddle right here on Northeast Streaming Sports. Guys, we'll see you on Friday with Are You Serious? Have a great night.